Avengers!
It is Wednesday at 12:01 a.m., which means it must be a new episode of Talking SMAC. That's Talking Superheroes, Movies, Animation, and Comics. I just want to start off with a few quick things. Number one, thank you to everyone for the lovely reception to the Andor Season 2 episode. You paid attention, you watched, unlike anyone else in streaming, because Andor Season 2 was notoriously not watched. So thank you to the hundreds of people who listened to Josh break it down with Greg Olson. It was fantastic. We appreciate it. Also, I would hope you all saw that there was a drop over the weekend. It was Talking Back, books of all kinds. Josh and Ricky discussing books and how they are adapted into movies. I hope you all enjoyed that. There's a few more of those coming. I have even tried to weasel into Josh's marriage to allow myself to be on an episode, and I was quickly told no and ordered back to the basement, which is unfortunate, but there is good news. Josh felt so guilty not giving me kibble last night that he drove to Pittsburgh because he is looking for the Steelers coaches to discuss with them the disappointment of signing Aaron Rodgers to a 1-year, $20 million contract after toying and dragging out the negotiations for 5 freaking months. Steelers, why are we picking up scraps? But it's okay. Josh is going to express with them. He's going to let them know. He, as a Packer fan, will tell them heartbreaking stories of what happened. But since Josh is gone, that means I had to go back to Seattle. I had to fly out to the Wet City? I don't know what the hell Seattle's nickname is. What is it, Justin?
The Emerald City? Oh, no. The rainy city? But today it's the sunny city, so you came at the right time.
Yes, we have Justin Henson from the Movie Wire and how many other podcasts. I know you have a second one called Back to the Balcony. That is a faithful, that is a weekly like the Movie Wire. Do you have a third or fourth in your back pocket that you're just ready to spring on us, or is being here enough for you?
There will be one coming up that's going to be under wraps, but right now it is just the Movie Wire, and with Antonio from the Cultworthy Cinema podcast, Back to the Balcony. And I don't know, this is kind of like my side gig on your show within this last year. So, so those are my shows right now.
Well, we appreciate it. So, Justin, this week I dragged you on because Josh is currently walking to Pittsburgh to see Ballerina. Oh, I'm sorry. From the world of John Wick, Ballerina, a somewhat troubled production that filmed in 2003 by Len Weissman, was supposed to come out last year, but then they put it on the back burner because, well, actually other things that put in the back burner like Highlander reboot and some other stuff that the shepherd of the John Wick franchise, not Chad. No, it is Chad. It's Chad Stahelski. I, for some reason, was thinking of Chad Stahelski. I think I was conflating Derek Kolstad, who was the co-director writer of the first one, with Chad. They took it into, it wasn't reshoots, Justin. We have a new phrase out of Hollywood because they don't want, reshoot sounds bad, sounds troubled. When you do something for a few months to fix a movie, is now called additional filming. That happened over a year after the movie was released. The director, Len Weissman, did not have any part of it. It was all being done by Chad, in which significant portions of the movie were completely restructured, redone. You can actually see that literally on screen because you can tell one director's style and cinematography versus another's. But Justin, I would like to bring to the table today your bias of the John Wick franchise movies. And so I have here before me some of your quotes from your from your podcast. We have quotes like Popcorn, Sydney Sweeney, Oh God. And then we have Who the Hell? And my favorite one of all your quotes, thank you for bringing me to the movies. So Justin, is that not your words?
those are my words, but those are the nice words. You left out all the good quotes from my John Wick reviews. So, but thank you. My favorite quote is "Thank you for bringing me to the movies." I have to add that. So well done there. But here's the thing. I think you nailed it with one name in that, Sydney Sweeney, who I I I, I have no problem with the cast, but Sydney Sweeney would have been badass in this, and it would have been a great tie-in to her new promotional soap of her bathwater coming out. So to me, I think it would have been a smart move to put Sydney Sweeney in this movie and any movie, just without close.
Uh, so that is actually not a joke. Dr. Squatch, the manscaping trimmer soap people, actually do have a co-production with her right now in which 10,000 bars of soap infused with her bathwater are being sold. Anyway, that's not the most important. What's important is that we got to review this movie, how it fits into the John Wick universe, because this movie is not good enough to stand on its own as Ballerina. It is from the world of John Wick, Ballerina.
This is one of those to go for show. If you like a character for 5 minutes, they are going to just go all in on this character. I don't know. Alex, I really want to hear you first, but at the same time, I have to say I was disappointed. I was disappointed that we got a title of Ballerina and I needed more ballerina. I needed more ballet. This one, you even touched on it that they went through reshoots. They can't call it reshoots because it's not reshoots. This is fucking AI of erase clips from the other John Wick films with De Armas put in. This is why AI is so dangerous, is because it's a John Wick fucking movie with De Armas. There's nothing that stands on its own. They took a character with a gimmick and said, this is going to be the only unique character, but let's do absolutely nothing different. I Your turn.
Oh, all right. Before my thoughts, we're going to hear from the gaming views. And then afterwards, I will let you know, Justin, just how much I agree with you, unfortunately.
Welcome to the trailer for gaming views. Think of it as the demo level before the real action kicks off.
We're Dan, and every week we're bringing hot takes, breaking news, deep dives, and everything gaming related.
From the biggest headlines to retro classics, hardware breakdowns, and inside scoops on developers, we cover it all.
So level up your gaming knowledge, subscribe to Gaming Views wherever you get your podcasts, and don't miss out.
Dan and Dan, you guys are fantastic, but that movie is way too cheerful for how I feel. So I was excited about the idea of Ballerina. I love Ana de Armas. I love the John Wick franchise. To me, it is the right amount of trickle world building where you're not giving lore dump after lore dump. It just kind of, the personalities of the people in the movie, the odd speaking mannerisms, the old style tech when they go to those call centers where they're literally doing the phone tree moving of, moving things around, to 70s, late 70s, early 80s style computers that they're still putting contracts on, and yet that signal still going to like modern cell phones. It's so bizarre. Like, you could make the argument that in theory 90% of the people in the world of John Wick are assassins, especially towards the end of the second one where John is excommunicado. And at one point he's walking and like everybody's phone starts chiming who's just walking a dog or pushing a baby stroller. You kind of expect like some kind of joke from Hot Fuzz where it turns out the thing in the baby stroller is actually like a Uzi or something. I think that credibility of that world became stretched in John Wick 4, where they lost the idea that the momentum of the series was John, and what became the main, I would say, driving force of that movie was Winston using John. This movie almost lost. We're gonna not do spoilers at first. It's just gonna do some impressions, and then we'll cut to spoilers here in a few minutes. But this movie lost me in the first 12 minutes, where they tried a little bit of world building as to why the ballerina Eve was going for revenge because she was with her father. Something about a mother who had died and their sister, and that bought me in. Those were the first like 45 seconds, but then it cut to a 13-minute action scene of her dad doing John Wick style fighting to defend his life. I did not need that. I didn't need to show her dad was just a brutal, capable fighter, and how Eve took her first life trying to defend her father, but her father still died. Because to me, that caused more questions than answers. Because this person who was going after her, called the Chancellor, who laid it out that you left our cult and now we are coming for you. He just walks away knowing that she's alive, to cut to her as a child, because she's only like 7 or 8, in a police station where Winston picks her up and gives her to Angelica Houston, the director of the Roma, who are the ballerina cult that John was a part of. I'm very confused. I'm like, how did she go from on a dock to police to this guy just able to walk up and not kidnap her, but take her? And then we got more backstory of like, you will be a ballerina. And finally, like 20 minutes in, we get to Ana de Armas. That only worked in the first John Wick movie for me because I was not expecting the next 90 minutes of like action. I was not expecting the puppy, and if they had shown the first John Wick movie of those people coming in and kicking his ass and getting rid of the dog, like his wife was a capable fighter or something like that, I would not have been as invested. The revenge story didn't buy it for me. But once it gets to Ana de Armas, it does pick up. The problem becomes the last 40 minutes of this 2-hour, 10-minute movie, where you realize that the directors and producers no longer have faith that this story can be carried on its own. Because at the last like half hour, it becomes a John Wick movie because John Wick literally shows up and starts saving the day.
Well, here's where I think we're going to disagree, because the first half hour, the first act worked for me, but I do agree that you have to throw in a kind of a snippet of the revenge, what the conflict's going to be, what's going to be the motivation. I get all that. I wasn't more particularly interested in that. I was more focused on when she gets to this assassin ballerina school it's like a Hogwarts of assassins, but instead of wands, you get stilettos and trauma. So this is where it really did
so
interest me. Is But instead of focusing on that, we get a montage where we feel we have to speed up this training, this really interesting premise that would have separated this from a John Wick film, of seeing what she has to do to prepare instead of just doing the lazy, we're going to spend 5-10 minutes of this quick montage of your training and then you're good to go. We're going straight into the normal formula that our writers are used to. It's almost a copy and paste piece of it, where even when we get to the second and third act, the montage of the ballerina, the choreographed fight scenes, we don't see integration in that. We don't see a focus on that. We don't see the director really driving that home, where it feels like, God, this is a true ballerina threat. This is a true unique fighting style. We go back to less ballerina and more boom, boom, and bang, bangs. And this is where it gets lazy. And I poked fun at John Wick 4 for the elongated shooting scene with the stairs that took forever, that was like 30 minutes. And we kind of get that going into this, where it reminded me, and we'll talk about it in a second of the climax, but it reminded me of the same exact formula, where we forget where Act One was leading us, and we just go into this hypnotic gunfights and just running or going around corners and just randomly putting in different scene changes. We go from city to snow. There is no balance to this movie, and it drove me nuts. And I complained about in my previous reviews. John Wick films and me have a horrible relationship because without fail, I fall asleep at John Wick films. Whether that's the soft, sexy voice of Keanu Reeves, whether that's the humming and constant blasting of pistols, I don't know. But here, I was interested going halfway through the second act. Then, once I got that hypnotic John Wick feeling, my eyes started to get heavy to the point I had to stand by the exit just to pay attention to this movie. It's and that's what triggered me to say, this is another John Wick movie. And that's okay. It's a spinoff. And this might appease John Wick fans, but at the same time, it didn't do anything different. It didn't take the ballerina idea and make it a forte in what it could have been.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that because once it gets to the ballerina school, I did find it interesting that apparently this is supposed to be an actual ballerina school. Like they show that on the screen that they're doing this the swan, I forget whatever, the Christmas one that they always do, and she's practicing ballet. And while they're practicing ballet, they're doing like escape stuff. They're doing fighting, as you said. It's stilettos and ass kicking. And sometimes people, leave the school because they don't have that full killer instinct. Which this is going to sound wrong, but I got mad at the movie itself when Anna de Armas's character Eve, she was getting her ass kicked and losing over and over and over again. And finally, Angelica Houston, no, not Angelica Houston, it is kind of her caretaker, Noji, I think is the character's name. Uh, she was like, "Why do you keep losing to this guy?" And he's like, "He's bigger, he's stronger than me." And she's like, "Well, you have to use your talents, your smallness. You think around it, think around him, do other things." And then she said, "Fight like a girl." And I was like, "You didn't need to say that. That you're punctuating the point. Okay, fine." And the first thing she does to fight like a girl is kick him in the balls. I was like, you could have said use this advantage against him. Use something. But I was like, really? And then kick him. And I admit it, I laughed. I then laughed after she defeated him. She punctuated by a heel kick, which I'm like, that poor guy.
Well, and that's where we kind of lose. You bring a brilliant point up because we do have that line. You are going to be weaker. You are going to be at a disadvantage to a man. And this is where it loses towards the middle of the movie to the climax, where we have flamethrowers, we have guns, we have all this. We don't have the empowerment message because there's always things of destruction. So, yes, you can add, I'm going to defend myself, but that's not the point of the Eve character. This is a point that she was trained in hand to hand combat. She was trained to outwit, outmaneuver, and defend herself to the stronger, if you will. And we get props in her hand to show I don't need to use my training. I'm going to use guns, I'm going to use flamethrowers, I'm going to use objects, whatever it may be, instead of the actual training of what makes her so empowered, what makes her powerful. You lose all credibility to a character when you deliver a line saying you are weaker than so and so. Use what talents you have, use ballet, use your flexibility, whatever it may be, but you're putting objects in a hand that takes away that empowerment. So this movie, you can tell with the title of Ballerina and De Armas's monologues towards the beginning that you wanted that empowerment message, but our filmmakers take it away. This was not a thought out script. It is almost insulting to take this opportunity to tell a message in a John Wick film without just the pure utter violence, to really have a character shine, to really show that empowerment, to take something away. And I know I might be far reaching by saying I'm going to take messaging away from a John Wick film because that's not the intent. But when filmmakers and writers give dialogue to hint that, then follow through with it. Don't hint it just to say you tried or just to say you intended for the message and just to say this is a movie about female empowerment. That's cheap. And that's what really did drive me insane with this movie is that every time it added something good, it would take the easy route, the cheap route, and it ended with nothingness.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. On the talking smack scale, as you know, it's a completely, we have two choices because the internet is, there's no gray in the internet for discussion. It's either a must see or it's a pass, which means it should be set on fire and forgotten because it's the worst thing in the world. Justin, what would your talking smack rating be?
Look, this one I'm sure will appease John Wick fans because whether it's called Ballerina or John Wick, it's John Wick with a character that appeared for 5-10 minutes. So it's a fucking John Wick film. Fans will want to have a must see, and I want to be respectful to that. But to me, this was cheap garbage that is going to fly away from my memory by tomorrow after a few bourbons. So this one, it's a miss. It's don't see it. If you weren't a fan of the John Wick films, you won't like this one because it's the same damn movie, just with Keanu Reeves with longer hair.
I really think that is basically what we're seeing like across the internet is that for critical ratings, it's kind of like a damning with faint praise that it's decent or meh, or it's more of the same, but you're getting diminishing returns. But audience ratings seem to like it. I was just kind of bored because unfortunately after the third movie, it really became seeing the movie to see what new action thing they would do and not necessarily what story they had, because by the third one they ran it, the third one they really ran out of story, and the fourth one I think really showed that, which is why they kind of tried to give an ending for it. This one they tried to spin a little bit something, but it's just another revenge flick, and in my opinion it homages itself and its world too much. We have the Continental, we have the first interaction between Eve and John Wick is them intersplicing and filming new scenes from this I believe the third John Wick movie where he goes to that area. So they try to make it seem like she was the ballerina on stage. It was a body double, it was someone else. But they cast Anna de Armas, and hey, she did good in the role. In no way my criticism is her. My criticism is the story denying a more interesting facilitation of her talents and her as a character. So, and then I do not believe they had enough faith in this movie by itself to sell it. We'll get to a bit more of that in spoilers, but for me, hey, if you're a John Wick fan, you're gonna have a good 2 hours of bang him, shoot him up, some interesting action. But for me, it's a pass because I watch these movies not only for the action, but for the story and the sympathy of hey, once you touch the puppy, I am like, John, please do whatever you need to do, sir. Yeah. All right, Justin. At the sound of the putt drop, we will go into spoilers. All right, Justin, I have a few notes that I want to get through you with this that bother me. That's the first action sequence after some interesting character buildup is Andamas going to a club in which she must distract somebody. Did you notice the issue and with her tattoos during that sequence?
No, I don't think even though De Armas, I will look up and down on a big straight all day long, but I can't say that I noticed the tattoos.
So she's wearing this backless dress. It looks gorgeous. She has that long, slightly shoulder-length hair, right? And across the back, they show when she's in her ballerina gear, they have the same kind of John Wick tattoos that say something Latin, right? Anytime she whipped her hair, that tattoo was not on her back. The tattoos on her back, they didn't bother brushing them in. And I get why they didn't bother putting them on her, because her hair is down. It's covering it. Why do we need to spend the extra 30 minutes doing this stencil tattoo on her back or touching it up constantly? So they just didn't bother doing it because the hair would block it. But when she would do a twisting motion or flip into something, that would you would see her back was just bare.
I have a confession to make. And I don't know if you know this.
Yeah.
Is I did a cameo in this film.
Oh, I knew it.
I was in that scene, and the reason the tattoo would disappear, the makeup team hated me, is because I would consistently lick that tattoo off, and they had to reapply it. So now it's an uncredited role.
I get it.
I don't want credit, but I just wanted to lay on that message.
Oh, that's why when I was watching the trailers, it said like best boy and then it said best lick. Got it.
This guy right here. I don't know if it was a best lick. You'll have to ask her. I doubt it, though.
So this is just a casting decision that made me mad. Is that basically her story is her father gets killed and she wants to go after this cult. That first kind of club scene, or no, it wasn't the club scene. It was a different fight scene, which they did great. I love this part where they cut to like this bathroom. It's completely destroyed. She's there removing some like glass from her shoulder, and she leaves this bathroom, kind of touches herself up, heads downstairs. Oh, they are like, well, the elevator has been blocked off. Were you locked in there? She's like, yes, it's so terrifying. Heads outside. Terrible fight scene because that is the worst CGI car accelerating to hit her that I've ever seen in my life. It's almost as bad as Brad Pitt, and worst CGI car sequence since 90s Meet Joe Black with Brad Pitt getting hit by a car. And there's this X on his kind of X scarification. Turns out it's some secret evil super cults that the whole cult, tribes do not interact with under the high table. We just let them exist, right? And she goes to see Winston and Sharon, which Lance Reddick, I miss you. You were Zavala in Destiny, and I play Destiny almost daily. Anyway, when that printout came across of there is somebody with that tattoo within one of the Continentals, and it was Norman Reedus, I immediately took me out of the movie. I'm sorry, Norman Reedus, I like you, but I knew, one, he wasn't going to be a bad guy, and two, he wasn't going to die. There's just no. I'm sorry, you're not going to put Norman Reedus in a role like this so that he's some bad guy who just gets iced immediately, especially when we know who the bad guy is, this character called the Chancellor. And that just frustrated me to no end. But this is before we get to the really big things that bothered me, I want to know, can you tell me how old Eve is supposed to be in this film?
Oh, God. What? I would say, I'm trying to remember the time frame, but I would say probably 35, 36.
Okay. You're completely wrong.
I figured as much.
Because at the beginning of the movie, she is like 7 or 8, right? Somewhere around there. And then they say 12 years later. And then it's 2 months later after that. After she meets John that evening, before she like goes downstairs to tell the chancellor, the director, I want to start doing my kills. And she does that. That was actually a great scene. There's a great scene where she has to kind of do her first 007 style kill. And the person she's going against, they don't know each other. And she says, do you know who I am? And Eve says no. And the woman goes, I'm you in 10 years. And they have to fight it out. But later on, when she's at that secret evil village and she finds her sister who she doesn't have memories of, her older sister specifically states, I was 9 years old when they told me you had died. So her sister's supposed to be 21, meaning Ana de Armas is somewhere between the age of 17 to 20.
Well, here's kind of the deal. Yeah, you're not wrong, even though I got the math wrong. But here's kind of the idea of the laziness. And we do have the writers here. They're following the same formula. And we can go through the timeline on it. But at the end of the day, nobody cares. Because we can take...
I'm the only one who cares about world building. I care, Justin.
I love the fact, and you're going to prove my point in my review when I air it, is that there are so many more things interesting other than this movie. Is to prove this movie wrong, is doing the math on ages, counting the cracks in the ceiling. Everything is going to be unique other than this movie. Because, you know what? I give you props for researching that, and please tell me you were alone in the theater and you were Googling this while the movie was going, because I would have done that. At one point, I was counting the times my foot stuck to the floor, my heel stuck to the floor. That's what I was counting at the 45-minute mark to the 90-minute mark. And I think I got up to 119, just FYI. But you're a smarter guy than me because you actually took and looked at holes in a movie versus me just counting sticks to the floor. So I give you props to that.
Well, it's just the illogical fallacy that just boggled my mind, because Anna de Armas, I'm not saying she doesn't look young. She looks fantastic for her age. But when the movie is trying to like put me into these situations where numbers are being given, I'm naturally going to add them. And so that's one of the things I actually appreciated about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is it showed Ethan Hunt's like dossier, and it straight up showed Tom Cruise's birthday of like 1963. Yes, Tom Cruise is like 60, is about to be 62. I expected them to like massage it and be like late 70s, kind of like do that little bit of a lie thing, like, oh no, he's actually like 48, guys. He's been doing this movie for 30 years. It was a young college marriage that got him into the IMF. No, they straight up to show up, dude, he's in his 60s, okay? So, but when her sister was there, I'm like, you are not 21. And it was just these little things that kept poking at me. Like they showed, like, I love his character, Ian McShane. That flashback when she was younger, they did a little bit of the Disney gloss on it, And the only reason I noticed this is because as he was walking away with the young girl Eve when they're leaving the police station, is that his legs looked a little too thin. And I'm like, I didn't remember Ian McShane having pencil legs.
Well, you know what's kind of almost insulting, and maybe they're writers, not mathematicians, is even to your previous point, is we take Hatton and Kolstad as writers, and the fact they're writing the screenplay and they're missing these small details to it shows the amount of effort, and even more so, what I spoke to earlier, the copy and pasting piece of it. So you can almost feel that they took chunks out of the description of a scene or how a transition is going to happen and just merely copied it. And they're not paying attention to the details of ages and things like that now that you bring it up. But I've always said that if you're going to make a movie over and over and over again when it comes to sequels or building a world, you have to have a vision. You have to have a visual interpretation of what you want your characters to do. And that's where we take this character, even though it's a minor character to an extent in the other John Wick films, it shouldn't be treated that way if you're making a goddamn spin-off movie. If you find it important enough to write a 2-hour movie about this minor character, you can't treat this character as a throwaway character without
Right.
adding some depth and some importance to it. And I think that's why this is one of those, you can tell it's a pre-summer movie because
Mm.
they don't have the confidence to put it in the middle of the summer. It has to be pre-summer because they know this is full of holes and they have to go up against the Al Pacino shitty movie, The Ritual. That's the only way this movie is going to survive. Is this was a week of no competition.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm not mentioning the plot is that is the plot. She finds the ex. The director says no, and she does it anyways, which is perfectly fine. And then she just murders her way around Europe for a little while. And that's fine. That is basically the plot of John Wick 1. John Wick's wife passes away. He gets a DoorDash puppy that apparently was on order from his wife. And then he just starts murdering his way until he can kill, Alfie Allen, which, during, I completely understood because I too had seen Game of Thrones and wanted to kill those guys. But that's the plot. See, the part that bothers me is that you can tell who shot what scenes, because Len Weissman, when it comes to the dialogue and the discussion of the characters, it's all kind of very flat. There's not a lot of color. There's not a lot of depth or flair. When the action scenes start, it is beautiful. I recently got those backlights, like LED strips for my main TV, so that, take the colors on your TV and throw them up on the wall and the ceiling. Beautiful. When when this the flamethrower versus fire hose scene was happening, in the back of my head I was like, oh, this is gonna look really pretty to watch in like 6 weeks when this is on streaming. Because it's gonna see the bloom and everything. It's gonna be great. But in my opinion, the refilmed action sequences, including the John Wick portions, diminish this movie a little too much. To the first part that bothers me is the action in John Wick. The first one was very grounded because they had a limited budget, and literally, like, he would kill one stunt guy, the camera would lift off the ground where the body was, that guy would roll off, come on screen, and be the next guy fighting him, like the second guy in line. The second, third, fourth ones, they got a little bit more loony, a little bit more weird. This one went full Looney Tunes action and completely did away with it. To your point of they, mentioning that they needed to give her something to do that's more empowered to her size and her stature and her fighting ability. They didn't give her like some ballerina tricks. She never like went on point, which everyone would expect, on point or something. Instead, she got like 2 grenade sequences. And in my head, the suspension of disbelief went extreme. Not that she couldn't pull grenades or use them or throw them. It's that she shoves a grenade in a guy's mouth and shuts a door against him, and there's a boom, the back of the door blows out and everything else. She's fine. Then she's fighting with someone else, puts a grenade in that guy's mouth, grabs him, flips behind a table, slams his head on the edge of the table, which makes the grenade go off. He explodes into nothing. She's fine. Grenades do not work that way. Concussive blasts do not work that way. And the thing that made me so mad about that is she's been knocked out twice with a gun to the head, including one sequence that says something blew up, and I hate it. Movies that do the ear-ringing thing to symbolize that the character is having hearing problems, I hate that because I have very sensitive ears. The tone is annoying as heck. Anytime I hear it, it makes me wonder, am I losing my hearing? And I'm like, okay, so she can't hear anymore for a while, right? No, perfectly fine. They went too far with the Looney Tunes action, to which I realized that they have run out of quote unquote grounded things to do, that they now have to go absurd things to do.
You totally missed the cameo of the Roadrunner going towards the flamethrower, by the way, at the end. So, and here's kind of my issue with it is you have a beautiful poster of the ballerina that has purple tones. It looks great. You think you're going to get, well, by the time we get to John Wick 4, we had some more impressive visuals with the neon, some more amplified tones that I recognized in my review of John Wick 4. So there's some visuals that I liked in number 4, but that's where I kind of missed here is this is where we have Wiseman do the Wiseman thing. Our director who did Underworld and the Total Recall remake sticks to what he knows. It's very bland. And you said you like the visuals. There are some okay shots here, and I will more focus on the flamethrower at the end. I thought that was a good shot. It had some good aerial shots, but during the entire movie, it was shadow upon shadow upon shadow. It doesn't have fun with itself. Yeah, it has these gimmicky grenade things, but and again, this is where we don't have the movie know what it is or where it wants to go. If you want to be goofy, be goofy. If you want to have fun with yourself, have fun with yourself. If you want to send a message, send a damn message. But you need to identify what you want to be and what your intent is. And when we get to the point where we get to the flamethrower, this is where I can see some potential, but at the same time, it is so drawn out where literally you can tell they almost wanted to use up a budget by spending 15 minutes on just a hose with flames coming out of it. Hurry the hell up. We get it. There is one scene prior to that I did enjoy, and I think they went all in after it, which is we have that fighting scene with the guy with the on fire leg, and I thought that was kind of a clever idea.
That was cool.
I thought that was cool. But at the same time, this one, when it comes to tone, doesn't do anything. This was a wrong director for this project because it is so dark and shadowy that it makes Batman look like a Pixar movie. There is really nothing here of tone to visually keep us invested. And again, I will go back to number 4. this is what separated me from the other Wick films, is that it added elements of visual style that really
Mm.
kept me a little bit more engaged into just a prolonged action scene that just is the same thing over and over again. It learned from what went wrong in the previous films and added some engagement or an attempt at engagement during its action scenes. So instead, here, where we just had the director shaking the camera and him saying, "Somebody throw dirt to make it look darker at the lens." So to me, I think this is where the movie really did bug me is it didn't have a clear vision. It didn't have intent on what it wanted to be. And there is nothing to really keep my interest after we get the premise of the idea in the beginning.
No, I agree. And I think that leads me to basically my last thing about this movie is that I think that is exactly why the reshoots included John Wick. They admitted that basically the entire third act was completely redone. They recently talked about that they are the ones who shot John Wick's previous scenes. Originally, he was only in it for that brief part in the beginning, where he kind of gives her some pseudo life advice. Now, I will say, with John Wick's appearance coming off the train, I actually dug because everyone around is like, "Oh shit, it's Baba Yaga," and starts like, even though they have the high ground with like assault rifles and stuff, everyone's like, "Oh, it's Baba Yaga," and like kind of retreating indoors. And I admit, I thought that the movie was going to undermine John Wick by having because the two of them fight, Eve and John. I thought they were going to have her kick his ass because like he's being sent to kill her. She knows this. So how does she get out of this? And I thought, lazy writing, she beats him up. No, he kicks her ass like 4 times. He maybe takes her to the ground, puts a gun to her head. It's like, hey, give up. He lets her go. She then attacks him again. She tackles him through a wall. He throws her back through a different wall. And then finally she kind of appeals to him by going, listen, he killed my dad. And he looks at his watch. He's like, okay, you got 28 minutes. If you're not, I'm going to kill you. Right? Because he is choosing not to kill. So I'm like, okay, I actually kind of dug that because she had been the one kicking everyone's ass, taking some injuries, but not really Looney Tunes style. She at one point got stabbed in the gut or stiletto or something happened, and she just shrugged it all off. Oh yeah, at one point she got sliced in the back by a machete, and then they show her cut jacket, and there's no wound on her back.
My cameo.
Yeah, I know. You cleaned up the blood. Then they did. I was like, okay with that scene. But then the firefight happens. She runs out of like water pressure, and John saves her life. Another homage to the first movie by using a sniper rifle to pop the thing, blow him up. He lights on fire for the 95th guy on fire in the last 7 minutes. I'm like, okay, cool. They're done. They did the homage to his life being saved and from the first movie by Willem Dafoe. We're done with it. She moves on for a little bit. They show him again once or twice, kind of like watching her go on. I'm like, that's a little weird. And then the lack of faith in the movie at all, of her being able to carry it. He gets his own fight scene where he kills all these people in this damn watchtower. Even people are like, are we going to go against the Baba Yaga? He's like, there's like 50 of us and one of him. And that person immediately shot in the head. And I'm like, Ana de Armas can carry this movie. A better script with more fluff and emphasis on her ability and her action and her can carry this movie. She, in my opinion, was one of the best parts of No Time to Die. Her brief scenes with Daniel Craig as that like plucky new US agent was fantastic. She was wonderful in that. I wanted more of her. This movie didn't leave me wanting more of her. This movie left me wondering why they chose to do disservice to her. And ultimately, in the John Wick movies, it's just another one. It's I don't know, the 5th out of 5 John Wick movies.
I think the one thing we're both going to agree on is this isn't a de Armas problem. She's incredibly talented. I think she does a great job.
Angelica Houston, wonderful. Ian McShane, 100%. Wonderful. Lance Reddick, wonderful. The bad guys, bad guys.
So the cast here is fine, but you're 100% right. It is the material, and you know it's the material because at the point of if it was any other movie that tried to just kind of milk the cameo of John Wick, of his mere appearance, it would drive me nuts. But I was rooting for him more than I was rooting for our Eve character. So I was invested in the stakes of John Wick wanting to support the Eve character. When he's at the roof on the sniper, I'm like, do the right thing, do the right thing. I know what the outcome's going to be, but
Yeah.
it still made me root. But I wasn't rooting for the main character because I didn't have a reason why. There was no emotional stakes to it because they rushed through all that. And that's how you know you have a problem with the material, not the performances, because you don't care by the last 15 minutes of what happens to the main character.
Yeah.
It takes a familiar character to come in to support the main character to say, I got you. It would have been almost more interesting movie just to have two random guys the last 45 minutes talk about who's hotter between Keanu Reeves or De Armas. And to me, that would have been a better climax than this movie. And I don't know. It would probably take more than 45 minutes to decide this factor because I still don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just the thing is, if we're doing some like kind of like 1 to 100 scale, 1 to 10 or something like that, it's not a bad movie. It's just not a good movie. And that ultimately, I think, is the problem, is that we have built up this expectation from the John Wick films that there's interesting world building, fantastic action, and you're always rooting behind the justification of the people doing it. This movie just didn't service that correctly. So unfortunately, based off of returns this weekend, probably not getting a second one because it had an inflated budget due to all the reshoots, and it came in well below expectations, which is unfortunate. They have announced John Wick 5 a few weeks back, but Keanu said, I haven't seen a contract. And, I don't know if I want a fifth John Wick. It's kind of like the Mission Impossible movies. I think 8 is enough. 4 is enough. 4.5 really is enough. So, yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any last words other than it was fine, but it's not a must-see.
I mean, if they do end up doing another John Wick, they can do it on, I don't know, the extra of Lunch Boy #2 or something like that, where he comes up, delivers a sandwich, and they throw the sandwich out, and he seeks revenge for that bologna sandwich. So I think they're going to find ways to pump and keep making these movies based on how this one does. And if it doesn't do well, then here's what they'll do. They'll do an extended cut of John Wick 4 on the staircase scene. Well, we'll have a 4.5-hour gunfight of this fucking stairs scene of a gunfight that never ends. And you know what? They'll probably put some AI explosions in the background. They'll have the ballerina come down in her tutu and kick some ass. And they'll have Lunch Boy #2 and maybe they'll be ballsy. Even Lunch Boy #1 come in with a Uzi and a flamethrower and just fucking end the movie. John Wick 5. I am now officially a better writer to the John Wick films than these fuckers in this movie. I digress.
If you want to hear more of these digressions, please, Justin, tell them where we can find you.
You can check out the Movie Wire anywhere you listen to your podcasts, and you can also check out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, on YouTube right now.
So over the weekend, I went to my mom's to see my little brother's graduation from high school, and because people assume I say college because I'm an old dirt, but when I told my mom I had to get back home because I was filming this episode with you, she went, "Oh, when did you start the podcast?" I'm like, "We're on the episode like 204, Mom." And I got to go home to film it with a guy in Seattle. We may or may not both be drinking. But anyway, I forgot which intro I used. I'll use this outro. Anyway, you can follow us at talkingsmackpod@gmail.com across all the socials. I mean, I'm sure there's some ones that I don't even know exist that are in there. I'd like to thank Justin for his time. It was always wonderful. I'd like to thank Beppo for our original avatars, Ricky, Retro Studios for our Ricky avatar, which you guys will be seeing a lot more because we do have Talking Back, books of all kinds. Oh man, I completely forgot who did music. I am so sorry. I appreciate your music, but I just completely blanked and I do not have my script up because I closed that window. Thank you so much for her music.
Thanks, John Williams.
Yes, thank you, John Williams. It's fantastic. You're doing great work here. And I would just like to thank you, the listeners. I said, a great reception to our past few episodes, especially the Andor one. A lot more of you have found us, and we appreciate it. So you will see more from us next week. We drop at 12:01 on Wednesdays, and our books will be dropping, I think, monthly on a Sunday. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Oh, Justin, I keep forgetting something.
The Ballerina, I completely forgot to.
No, what should people watch? It's a show about space. I got nothing.
Oh, I think what you mean to say is watch Star Trek.
Yes, watch Star Trek. Who loves T-Smack?
I love T-Smack. Is it true? I do. Ooh.